and silence is short as well, and no limit L. So playing ICM really and trying to make the most of our stack. And that involves obviously a lot of opening hands, a lot of 3-bet, and some really aggressive play, putting opponents into tough decisions. I've decided now to 3-bet 2-pack from the small blind. Ace-10 plays pretty well post-flop, you know, perhaps if we had a similar stack to him, I might be flatting or folding, but I'm definitely taking the lead with this hand. He decides to flatten position. It comes 9 Queen 6, complete airball for me, but I'm always going to be barreling this flop. Even if he does have a queen or something, I think a lot of turns and rivers can change his mind, and I can represent a lot of hands there. If he does call and it comes a king or whatever, or a heart on the turn, I'm just going to keep barreling because I don't think he's the type of player to be able to make that sort of hero call with just a queen if the board changes. So that's why it's such a profitable spot to be betting there and continue betting. If he does call here, then the pot goes to about 150. He goes down to about 280, and I can put a smallish bet on the turn to leave a pot size bet on the river and put him in a real tough decision. The good thing about it is that if he does call with the best hand, I've still got a decent equity left in the tournament. He goes ahead and folds, so you know what I was talking about didn't really matter in the end, but I think it was necessary to say it anyway. Because they're opening just so wide. We're going to see how this hand plays out. So Gore will have flats on the button. I think if he has a hand here, he's 3-betting 35, 40k. I haven't really got much history with this player, but you know, I can't see him ever showing up with a premium here, which makes our decision so much easier. If you know he's not trapping pre-flop, then it's going to be so much easier getting him off a hand post-flop than if you think that he could have aces or kings in his range. Then barreling is going to be can work out as pretty expensive. When you're almost sure that the opponent doesn't have a premium in his range and just has something that plays well in position, it's so much easier to be able to just keep putting the pressure on, especially at the final table, because at the end of the day he's going to be folding a lot of one-pair hands. So it comes down 2-8 king with the flush draw. You know, I'm always going to be betting this flop. Obviously, I prefer to see it 3 on it, but it didn't work out. I think I've barreled. I still can't see it. It's a stupid thing. The pot's now 72, which meant something. I barreled about half the pot, expecting to see a fold from him quite a lot. He calls. The turns are 5. I've now increased the bet a little bit. I bet a little bit over half the pot, 54-6. Just to say, you know what, I think a lot of players might just call the first barrel for a bit of information, maybe with a hand like with a second pair or a pocket pair there, maybe even a weaker king. They might just be calling and, okay, you know what, if he's going to check the turn with all his air hands now, and I'm going to take the pot down. He also could be floating. I don't think it's particularly likely at this stage of the tournament with this player. I think he's probably more looking to protect his chip stack. So I bet 55,000. He's made the call. Now, what better river for me to represent than an ace? It can't look like, okay, you know, I've been betting ace-10 or something like that all the way. I don't see him check calling many aces in his hand. I think, sorry, check call. I mean, just calling me in position. I think most of the time he's going to be having a king in his range. But worst, I mean, a flush draw, which is with an ace, which is pretty unlikely. I think most of the time he's going to have king jack, king queen, king 10, that sort of hand. So an ace is a great card for me to represent the river. Now what you've got to be able to do is make and convince him you've got it, which isn't going to be easy. And instead of putting a bet out there, I decided to take my time a little bit and try and think, you know, if I've got a hand like ace-7 or ace-10, am I going to be checking, calling here, or am I actually going to be betting? I think when you bet so quickly, it looks a little bit more bluffy because it looks like you haven't even thought about it. Whereas if you do have an ace here, you actually have to take into account whether this ace actually hasn't helped you, whether you're actually already drawing dead. So I took probably about 20 or 30 seconds and decided to fire a bet of about 105,000. I think if I made it too small, like 60 or 70, while it looks like I want to call, I think you can call a lot easier. I think it was 125,000, which is a good size bet for him, because if he does call, he goes below 200k and he's wrong. Just about enough to be able to get him off a king here, I should think. He may not want to fold it, but I think it is a great river to represent, and he did end up folding. So there's 7 players left now. I've got ace-5 on the button. 20 big blinds effective. A little bit less for him, a little bit more for him. I think tournament poker has got to the stage now where, you know, these guys aren't going to be flatting out the blinds with whatever, unless it's a huge premium. They're always going to be 3-bet shoving or 3-betting or just folding. So if you do open a hand like ace-5 up here, you're not going to be folding to a 20 blind shove unless you've got a real read on the guy that he's complete nit. When it's fine opening any 2 cards. I've decided to open, and I think it's important in poker, if you're going to open, if you're going to play a hand, then to make a plan of what's going to happen. I've opened here and I said, okay, if one of these 2 shoves, I'm going to make the call, particularly M silent, so I know he's capable of shoving a lot lighter. Obviously there's already 50k in the pot here, which is going to make a nice difference to these both stacks. They'll also be under the impression that I'm opening a lot of buttons, which mean that shoving from the blinds here is pretty profitable. Ace-5 isn't the best hand to be raised calling with 20 big blinds, but I still think it's ahead of it's ahead of a lot of the range. It's not crushing it by any means, but it's definitely ahead of a lot of the range there from the blinds. I don't really like open shoving. Because you're going to get called by better, you're kind of letting them play perfectly. So that's what happens M silence. I'm not too happy about calling off here another 200k, but my stack can afford it. I know that he can be light here. I mean, if he 3-bet me to like 70k, then I'm like, you know what, maybe my plans changed a little bit, and I just can't see him 3-bet folding here. I think he's trying to get a lot of value from a premium, because he's just jammed. I think, well, ace-5 is going to be ahead of a lot of his range here. I was right, he did have 10-8. Horrible board for me, but I managed to river the 3 outer, and there we are. This is probably the most interesting hand in the tournament. Talks a lot about ranges, a lot about what your opponent thinks your range is, and a lot about post-flop poker. It's the 2 biggest stats at table colliding, myself and Tupac. Looking back at the hand now, I think I could have done a few things differently. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I'm going to talk you through the logic of how I played this. King 6 is a fine hand to be opening under the gun. Tupac's in position now, which he's called. Fucking bloody Tupac, and he's got me out chipped. I much prefer to just to have got round, but it didn't work out that way. The blinds both fold, and it's come down. Pretty nice flop for me. 2 diamonds for a flush draw and an overcard with a king. I got that out for about 30k or 32k. I can't see because my cards are in the way. And Tupac's gone ahead and made the call. I think if he's flatted pre-flop with an overpair and trapping me, I don't think he's going to be doing that very often. I think he's going to be 3-betting a lot of his premiums there. We're pretty deep, and he doesn't want to give the blinds a free stack. The blinds aren't really particularly short stacks, so they're not going to be squeezing 20 bigs with a wide range. I think, if he did have a premium, he'd probably be 3-betting there. But if he didn't, and he did have a premium, he'd definitely be re-raising the flop. So I've pretty much counted him out of a premium there, just from saying that and the dynamics at the table. I think if he had 10s through to queens or kings there, he's definitely going to be re-raising the flop, and most probably with aces as well. So he's trying to keep the pot small. That may mean he has a 1-pair type hand, maybe an ace-high for showdown value, or a draw. The turns are 4 now, and I've just checked to him. I think he can be floating a lot of these flops, perhaps with a hand like Jack 10, open ender, 7-6 also open ender. One pairs like ace 9,